When I was sitting down thinking about this time, this day, this possibility that we hold right now, a new day, a new year, thinking of where we've been for quite a while and where we want to be. And I was thinking about what's the intention, what's the vision that I want for all of us, not just for me, but for all of us. And I know this is what came forth, is that I want all of us to know a greater possibility, a greater empowerment of who we really are, what we're made of, how we're designed, the goodness that's ours to have right now in any moment. If we could have a greater grasp on that, how different our own individual lives would be, and how different the world would be. If we could just do that, own ourselves in a greater capacity, how good that would be. I'm going to go a little bit differently, but there's a quote from the Science of Mind textbook that I wrote down verbatim because I think Ernest Holmes said it so beautifully, what the problem we have in not owning who we really are, that we're so much more alike than different, that we're so good inside, that all our mistakes are just learning lessons and not something we should live by. He said, much of the background of human thought, and we know in our teaching, our thoughts are things, and change your thinking, change your life. So he says, much of human thought is one of negation. It's one of negation. We deny the harmonious and spiritual universe. We deny it. We don't own it. We don't claim it. When that's the truth, we live in the midst of infinite possibility, yet we turn it off. We don't believe it. And he says what we need to do is we need to change our outlook on life. We must be transformed by the renewing of our mind, even when the results are not immediately seen, as we heard from your reading and Cheryl's sharing, that you don't see it right away lots of times. But we can't keep trying because that's how we're made. We're infinite beings. And he goes on to say, we must maintain a calm serenity of thought and a focus on the something greater. The realization of the presence of God is the greatest secret power of our life. You see, we as humans have been given this mind, which we have somewhat control over, but it's a self-knowing mind. This mind that we have can know our outer experience, but it also can know our inner experience. It can be aware of our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, our desires, our limitations. It can be aware of our gifts. It can be aware of our personality traits, and it has the ability to change them and correct them and adjust them and uplift them or push them down, up to us. When Socrates said how many thousands of years ago, 2, Jim, 2.5, 3, whatever, he said, know thyself. An unexamined life is not worth living. Well, I can't say it's not worth living, but it certainly keeps us down instead of raises us up, lifts us up to the place that we're meant to be. This self-knowing mind, this self-awareness that's built into us, has been an instrument for sages and saints and poets and prophets and wise men and women and mystics, all of them, to know the greater truth. And no matter what kind of tragedy, difficulty, challenge they were in, they could hold on, lift up, rise up, and see that greater vision for themselves. They all use that as an instrument. We have within us the ability, as I said, to adjust ourselves. We don't do this life alone. We are co-creators with Spirit, with God, with creative intelligence. That's available to us all the time. And we have within us, which we talk about often, this irresistible urge, we call it that divine spark, that's constantly pushing us to something more, because the universe wants what's best for us. It wants us to succeed. It doesn't want us to be limited. But it also loves us enough to let us grow and evolve at our own pace and in our own way. So we're conscious creators with this infinite intelligence. We have this divine urge within us to grow and expand that we can shut down. We know how to do that really well. But we have that. And we have the ability to see beyond what is. And that happens when we use our inner eye instead of our outer eye. There's two kinds of visions, really. The outer eye, when we look at the physical world, we can see what we want in this physical world. We can, and that can be good. We want this, we want this, we want this, but we can't see beyond that. That's our lower vision. We have a higher vision, and that's the inner eye, the divine eye that's in everybody. Everyone has the divine eye within them, the ability to see beyond. And in that eye can see spirit and God, potentiality, possibilities. Now, our divine eye doesn't mean we have to give up, that's the higher vision. Doesn't mean we have to give up the lower vision. It means it changes our intention. Oftentimes we want things in this physical world to fill a hole within ourselves because we don't feel like we're enough. We want something out there because I'll be better than my neighbor. And we want something for the wrong reasons. When you go to that higher vision, when you see God and know that we are the extension, we're the way the creative intelligence finds fulfillment, the way God knows itself, then whatever we want, whether it's a beautiful home, whether it's a new car, a great job, a wonderful relationship, a good job, we're not doing to get something more. We're doing it as an expression of beauty, of love, of possibility, of creativity. We're doing it from a different place and a different energy. That's why it's higher. Does that make sense? Sort of? Okay, good. So the potentiality, something else, another ancient Greek, either a friend or student of Socrates or Socrates was a student of his, Aristotle talked about potentiality, which is the latent talents and gifts and possibilities that reside within us. They remain latent and dormant until we activate them. Ernest Holmes loves to talk about it in this way, and I think it's a way we can all recognize it. The acorn seed holds the potentiality of the oak tree. It doesn't have to do anything, it's already there. It has to put itself in the right environment. It has to have the earth and the water and the sun to grow. But all of that potential resides within it. And that's the truth with us. We need to activate the potential, step up, move, see beyond all the stuff that's going on, the circumstances of our life, to hold on to something greater. So when we talked about setting the stage for this higher vision, this higher idea of ourself and all people, because it's not just for us, it belongs to everybody, is we have to, just as if you're doing a theater production, you can't put a new set on top of the old one. You have to clear the stage. My dear, wonderful Sufi mystic Rumi said, "Be like a tree and let the dead leaves drop." Let them go. Make room for something new. Clear the stage. And then with clarity and intention of what you want to put on that stage, because it's clear, it's open, it's a possibility. Start setting your stage for something new. So that's something we get to do at the beginning of the year right now. Our vision begins, of course, when our heart, which holds the divine eye, and our mind, which has the physical eye and beyond, and our higher self are connected. That's where the vision starts, when we can connect all of that, and we're balanced in knowing who we are, an open vessel for something greater. Now, when we're there, there's something that we don't realize, and I don't talk about too often. I do say a little quote from Rumi about it sometimes. But in the Bible, it says, "You have not because you ask not." We have to be clear and focused on what we want and what our vision is. Too often we feel, I don't know if I really deserve it. That's what I want. I don't know if I could really get that. There's too many obstacles in the way. But we have to be clear with what we want. You do not have because you do not ask. Now, Rumi says this in a poem I say quite often, which kind of incorporates all of this. He says, "The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you," which means the universe is always there. It has guidance, it has inspiration, it has wisdom, it has all of that for us. Don't go back to sleep. But that's what we can do. We can shut ourselves down and not listen to all that amazing stuff that's going on for us and working with us to be something more. But the thing he says next, the breathes at dawn, has secrets to tell you, don't go back to sleep. And then he says, you must ask for what you really want. So I think this day, at this time in the new year, is a time for us to go in and get the clarity on what wants to come forth from us. Not going out there and like, oh, I want this, I want that, but going in and asking, what is it I really want? And ask for what you really want. Don't go back to sleep. And then start listening for that breeze that has information to tell you. But then there's another step we could do, especially since it's the beginning of the year and it says 11:11 right up there on our clock, which was the gateway. We need to write it down and claim it. Claim it. Now, I don't know how you do that, if you journal, if you have a vision board, what you do, but you need to claim what you want for this 2025. What you're going to do with your beautiful life, this gift that you've been given, how we want to express it here and now. We ask for it, we write it down, and then we visualize it and see it and claim it every day. And it may take a long time. And we may have to readjust it. We may, oh, well, that's not quite right. But it's there. We have to be in the process of claiming that thing that's wonderful. Now, I've talked about this man quite a bit too. But this came to me. So you speak it, you write it down, and then you have to live it. We have to live what our vision is. Think of the God qualities that you get from that vision. If it's love, if it's beauty, if it's joy, if it's creative expression, start living that. Because our vision is not static. It's alive. It's alive, and we have to live it. So Leo Buscaglia, Dr. Leo Buscaglia, the love doctor, is a beautiful man that was my professor at USC in sociology. But what he taught about was love. And he was an amazing man. I have a little story about him that I think is really important for us as a learning lesson. But let me give you a little bit of information I just read about him, and I thought it was so sweet. He's an author, a motivational speaker, and he was a professor at USC. He was known for getting on the elevator and standing in front of the door. And he'd say to the people that were in there, he'd introduce himself first, and then he'd say, this might be the only chance I ever get to meet you. And I don't want to miss that chance. Is that like the love doctor? Of course. And then this is something, these things gave me the God bumps for sure. Both of these little clips about him. He would rake the leaves in his yard and then put them in a room in his house. And he'd look at all the leaves and study them. He was fascinated that God would go to the trouble to make every leaf different. And he said, imagine how proud he is of us if he goes to all that trouble for one single leaf. Wow, I love this man. And he was the first to state and promote the concept of human needs for hugs. 5 to survive, 8 to maintain, and 12 to thrive. So here's the lesson I thought is for us today. Because if we're limiting ourselves in negation and holding us and attaching ourselves to the mistakes and things we have or have not done in the past, we're limiting the possibilities that are there. So a fellow wrote about an experience he'd had with Dr. Buscaglia. He was one of his students, and he graduated, but they got on an elevator at USC. And Dr. Buscaglia had a meeting way up there on the top of the building. This was a long time ago. So not only were there no cell phones, but the elevator was pathetically slow. And so he came on the elevator, and he was late for his meeting. And he knew it, and he professed that he was late for his meeting, and he felt bad. But then he and the student got talking about what had happened in their class and different things. And the student got off the elevator, and accidentally, Leo got off there too. It was 10 floors below where his meeting was. And so the student got off and said, oh, I'm sorry, and he went on. And then he turned around to see what Dr. Buscaglia was doing. And this is what he said. He said, he saw himself waiting for the pathetically slow elevator, hugging himself, saying, it's all right, Leo. You got off at the wrong floor, and you'll be late, but you're still such a beautiful person. I love you, Leo. You're an adorable guy. It's cute you keep making these funny mistakes. think how many of us, well, you don't have to raise your hand, would be swearing, would be throwing something or thumping the floor, beating yourself up for the mistake you made and the people you were going to hold up at the meeting, instead of realizing we all make mistakes. He didn't make his mistake a chance to beat himself up. He made it a chance to love himself. So if you take home anything from today, think of all the chances we have to love ourselves. And I would just like to close with a little something that I put together, just a little closing, and I didn't want to forget some of the things. So first of all, a vision without action is just a dream. It's just a thought. Howard Thurman, one of my beloved mentors that I read all the time, said, "Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive. What makes you come alive, and go do it. Because the world needs people who have come alive, who have sparked that vision within themselves and come alive." So this is what I'd have to say as we set the stage. And I want you in your mind's eye, just envision a stage in front of you, blank. But as we get to set the stage with what we want for this coming year, let us remember we are never, ever, ever alone. We're never alone. The universe conspires with us, offering us guidance, resources, and inspiration at every turn. And when we align our vision with the highest good, and that's the difference between the lower and higher vision, with the highest good, because the universe always wants what's best for us, we become channels of creative intelligence. We become channels of goodness. We become channels of the beauty, the joy, the light, the possibility, the potential, and we inspire others to do the same, to step over the limitations, to embrace them, to hug them, to love them, do whatever you want, and to live the light of spirit. That's for you and me to do this year. And I know we're going to do it together, and I know we're going to do it well, and I know we're going to hold each other in the tough times and applaud each other in the great times, and we've got a wonderful year to look forward to. Thank you for being here with me. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.